Welcome to part 2 of my impressions on the second Halo Infinite flight. If you haven't seen part 1 yet...
Why?
I mean, come on, what are you doing? It's like watching a movie from the middle point. You gotta get the whole experience. But if you have watched part 1, then thank you so much, and let's just keep this train going. The other new mode for this flight was Big Team Battle, and 343 definitely brought it back in a big way. BTB has always been my personal favorite mode because you get to play with most of Halo's sandbox, you can ride around in vehicles, and it's a lot larger scale and cinematic feeling, kind of like a mini battlefield. 343 aims to evolve this mode, and in many ways, I think they succeeded in that. However, there are a few issues I'll soon address, but for now, let's first talk about the flight's last new map, Fragmentation. Fragmentation is a really cool map, and like Behemoth, its setting isn't on any human world or colony, but on a Halo ring. As far as looks go, this map is a 10 out of 10. I love how there's a nice mix between the forest and nature, with the more classic alien Forerunner structures. There's a lot of nice little details like the adorable wildlife, there's some dead sentinels scattered around the map, there's this hidden UNSC camp, there's those classic beam towers that shoot up into the sky, and more. Heck, I even love those Minecraft looking pillars we made fun of in last year's campaign demo. 343 definitely made them look a lot better, and they really do add a lot to the map's level design. We also have these loot caves that you can hack with your AI, and if you defend it long enough, you open these classic looking Forerunner doors and get access to weapon caches filled with power weapons and equipment. I love this feature because it makes the AI feel more useful and adds some interactable elements to the map. I would love to see more interactable elements with these maps because stuff like that just makes them more memorable, like a shock floor for recharge, or replace the bottom bridge in Behemoth with a light bridge that you can activate and deactivate, just cool stuff like that. The final cool thing I ran into on the map is the noob cubes, which are fusion coils that you can pick up and throw at people. These are amazing and I want more of them. While they aren't super strong, it's so satisfying throwing these at other players and vehicles. It is sad that they don't respawn because they're a really fun element and I would love to see them on arena maps as well. This time 343 also raised the player count from 16 to 24, and overall I think it supports the map well. To be honest, I didn't even realize that the player count was raised until I remembered that little detail. That's how natural it was. Besides, for the back of the main team bases, combat was pretty spread out, and there was a nice variety of close and long-range engagements. However, there are a few level design nitpicks I have with the map, like certain more close-quarter sections really create a lot of stalemates where people are more or less just spamming grenades and everyone's just kind of deadlocked. Especially this room in the middle of the map where the defenders just camp the corners waiting for people to walk into the doors while the people outside just hang back spamming grenades. This whole section of the map just reminds me of Battlefield 4's Operation Locker map, which if you played that, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. I made a tiny little redesign to balance this room out because this room can get really annoying in modes like Total Control. Finally, I also think the middle road sections should be spread out a little wider so Scorpion tanks don't feel so cramped and like sitting ducks. But as far as layout goes, those are my only nitpicks because the rest of the map is pretty well designed and many people seem to really love the map. Another big change with Big Team Battle is the weapon and vehicle drops. We do have a good number of weapons and vehicles that are traditionally scattered around the map, but we also have drop pods and pelicans that will fly in and drop off additional weapons and vehicles. This is a cool idea. In concept, having pelicans fly in to drop off your Warthog definitely gives the game more of a cinematic feel, but at its current stage, it comes at a cost of the game itself. Usually, 2 Pelicans will drop off the same vehicle at each team's base, and these can be a Ghost, a Warthog, Wasps, Banshees, Scorpions, and probably more. However, a few problems pop up. First, they always drop the vehicles off in the same spot in front of the bases, so an enemy player can easily run across the map and either steal it, destroy it, or kill anyone waiting for it to drop. Second, they almost always drop weaker vehicles like Ghosts or Warthogs, and they don't drop something better until it's usually the end of the game. So you'll get into a Scorpion ready to wreak some havoc, and then the game ends. It's frustrating. Most of the time, people also end up getting the existing vehicles destroyed rather quickly when they drive into the enemy's base right away. So much of the match does lack a lot of vehicle combat, which is a part of what makes big team battles special. They should have additional and more random spots for the Pelicans to drop off vehicles, like behind the base or by the base's side. They also should have more Warthogs, Ghosts, or any lower class vehicles on the map from the start, and have the Pelicans only drop stronger vehicles. People have also suggested having tanks be on the map from the start, which might be another good option. It's not as terrible as the spawns in Halo 5 Warzone, but it's not great either and needs some serious improvements. As for the power weapon drops, these pods usually drop power weapons like gravity hammers, rocket launchers, skewers, and snipers, though from my experience, I've mostly just seen grav hams, which is probably the least effective weapon to have in a large map like this. But my biggest problem with them is they're very easy to miss. They blend in well with the environment, and the only thing that really makes them stand out is these dim, blinking green lights. They should definitely have some kind of icon above them or some outline to help them stand out more. While we're on the topic, we might as well finally talk about the vehicles themselves. I'll start with the heavy vehicles because since the Pelican drop system isn't the best, everyone didn't get much time with the heavy vehicles, but I did at least get 2 tries with every vehicle. Starting with the Scorpion tank, it's pretty good. The tank can definitely do some serious damage, which is what I come to expect. However, I did not like using it on this particular map. I was too afraid to push the enemy base because the 2 roads you use to get there are so cramped and it's so easy to get jumped, so I just hanged back. Also, turning the tank was kind of a pain, but I'm willing to just blame my lack of experience on that and not on the controls. What I don't blame for lack of experience is the Banshee. I'm gonna say it, this thing sucks. It does control pretty well, but neither of its weapons do much damage. I literally was Banshee bombing people directly and they just shrugged it off. It also would either get hijacked or blown up so fast. I had a similar feeling about the Wasp, but it is a little stronger, and at least I've actually seen people be good with the Wasp. I haven't seen anybody get more than 2 kills with the Banshee. Please buff the Banshee. Now let's talk about the vehicles we actually got to drive. First off, the Mongoose. It's a mongoose.
No shit.
Moving on, next we have the Warthog. Driving feels really good, and it actually has some weight to it. Thief 3 also brought back my favorite feature from Halo 5, which was being able to switch seats from the press of a button. It's such a great feature, and I hope it never leaves. The turn reticule was surprisingly small, and kinda hard to see enemies through at times, but more surprisingly, Thief 3 decided to compensate for this by removing the overheat feature. We haven't had the unlimited turret fire since Halo 3 and ODST, but I'm actually happy it's back. Last but certainly not least, we have the Ghost, and this thing is insane. The other vehicles do feel somewhat weak and vulnerable, but the Ghost feels strong enough, and it's really effective in combat. It does seem to have just as much speed and control, moving backwards and side to side as it does moving forward. This is really different than it's been since games like Halo 3, and I'm not sure how I feel about it or if it needs a nerf, so I'm gonna let the community be the verdict on that. Finally, I absolutely love the sound it makes when it boosts. I'll spam it just to listen to it on repeat. It's like dubstep. All the vehicles also have this new feature where you can destroy certain pieces and actually reduce their effectiveness. For example, you can shoot the tires off a warthog and a mongoose and ride around with them like you're playing Mario Kart. While crippling vehicles will probably make them drive slower or handle worse, the performance difference isn't too drastic, and I'm not 100% sure if I should look at that as a positive or a negative. One cool thing though about the vehicle damage is if they take too much damage, it'll glow red, make a sound alerting the driver and passengers, and they'll have a small window to bail before it explodes. This is a neat feature, but it has so much more potential. It's not hard to notice as long as you're paying attention, and it's not that lethal to anyone around it. With that 4 to 5 second delay, it would be really cool if it actually had a blast radius that damaged or killed anyone around it. You could even try things like if you're trying to capture the flag, but your ride gets wrecked, and your passengers bail, you could decide to do a suicide charge into a group of enemies and watch it explode. Or you could take out a group of enemies by shooting the warthog next to them and setting off its explosion. Or you could just have a warthog blow up in the crossfire and just kill everyone around it, or at least hurt everyone around it and create this sense of panic. This could promote people to use more non-lethal tactics when shooting at the warthog by either shooting out its tires, EMPing it, or hijacking vehicles instead. It would definitely be a fun feature and add so much more chaotic elements to the gameplay. However, while the controls for all the vehicles are great, and some of the vehicles are actually really strong, most of the vehicles are just too weak and vulnerable. They either get jacked or destroyed super quickly. I mean, you can literally insta-kill a wasp with one shot from the skewer. And as satisfying as that is to pull off, I feel bad for the Wasp and Banshee pilots. While the weapons, movement, and maps have evolved to work within Infinite Sandbox, it seems like the vehicles are having a hard time coexisting, and there are so many ways to deal with them now. Many of these include jacking, grapple jacking, using heavy weapons like rockets or skewers, using shock weapons like the shock rifle or dynamo grenades, using other grenades, the vehicle damage feature, vehicles having a self-destruct mode, repulsing vehicles off the map, vehicles getting destroyed right as the Pelican drops them, terrible drivers, and even other vehicles. At least it makes a little more sense now why the plasma pistol had its EMP effect removed. It is weird that I genuinely feel bad for fictional video game vehicles because it seems the entire sandbox has been built around destroying them.
I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this.
The vehicles really aren't in the best place, and I know they need some serious health buffs, as well as some of those nerfs I mentioned for the equipment and the shock weapons. It's probably too late to change this, but instead of leaning toward making the vehicles more destructive, it might have been more beneficial if they were more like the vehicles from Halo Combat Evolved, where vehicles don't actually get destroyed, but the drivers can still be killed, or in Infinite's case, hijacked. That way, vehicles would be on the map longer, it would feel more like a tug-of-war fighting for the vehicles, and more vehicles could be dropped, making the latter half of the match more chaotic. However, I know Thief for 3 have invested a lot of time and resources into vehicle destructibility, so I doubt they'd go that far. The final thing to discuss about Big Team Battle is the 3 modes we played: Slayer, CTF, and Total Control. Slayer is straightforward, but they did do something interesting with CTF. For Big Team Battle's CTF, each time you capture a flag, the flag respawns in a different location that's closer to the enemy base. This is a good thing because it gives the losing team a better chance of catching up, as capturing each flag will be more difficult than the last. I also like that it's not just the same spot every time, so you don't take the same path throughout the whole match. One last cool detail is those Forerunner towers will shoot a beam into the sky every time a flag is captured, which is pretty cool. Finally, Total Control is a new mode in Halo Infinite, and it's basically Stronghold on steroids. Seriously, the most accurate way I can describe Total Control is it feels like you're playing tug-of-war. 3 zones spawn on the map, and in order to score a point, one team has to capture all 3 zones. The first team to score 3 points wins. This is both a really exciting and exhausting mode, because you do find yourself going in circles, capturing zones while the enemy captures the zones you just captured. When a set of zones are captured, new zones will spawn in different sections of the map. And this is great because some sets spawn closer to one particular team's base, giving that team a chance to catch up. I also like that it moves all around the map instead of always being in the same 3 spots like Stronghold. This mode definitely requires a lot of teamwork, a lot of coordination, and a lot of patience, but it can be a really fun mode. Overall, Big Team Battle was really fun and has the potential to be my favorite way to play Halo Infinite, but between the flawed Pelican Drops, the weak vehicle balance, and no medal announcer for Big Team Battle, I will say I prefer playing Social Arena, but if 343 can fix these issues, then this will easily dethrone Social Arena as my favorite way to play Halo Infinite. That's just about everything I have to talk about regarding the actual game. I'll share my thoughts on stuff like the training mode, custom games, and weapon drills in the comments below, because I don't want to stretch this video longer than it needs to be. But there are a few more things I do want to touch on, because they are kinda major concerns I have. The first of which is the progression system. I don't think these flights have done a great job showcasing the progression system or the battle pass, and I'm worried about this game's longevity. Don't get me wrong, this game is so much fun that I'll be playing it for quite a while, and usually I love challenges since they do keep me playing a game longer than usual, but not receiving XP from just playing the game and not having us rank up is such a bad idea. Once we finished the flight's battle pass, which didn't take that long, there wasn't much incentive to keep playing besides just playing. And having challenges be the only source of progression just means players have to play outside their comfort zone in order to progress, and will likely lead to them not focusing on the match itself. I like the concept of challenges encouraging you to play in ways you might not normally, but you should also be rewarded for just playing in general. What if somebody doesn't like objective modes, but the weekly challenge for that week is to play 50 objective games? Guess if they want to progress and unlock stuff, they gotta suck it up. Also, not earning ranks like Sergeant, General, or even Inheritor really takes away something special about the progression system. I always loved just seeing my rank or level, comparing it with my friends, and just feeling a sense of accomplishment for the time I spent. Instead, it just feels like this is meant to feel more grindy, and it's given me some serious Destiny flashbacks, and I don't want Halo to devolve into a grind fest where I'm grinding ridiculous hours just for one unlock. Granted, besides MCC and Splitgate, I don't have too much experience with games that have battle passes, so maybe this is more of the norm, but 343 should aim to be better than those other games. I also want to mention a few things while we're on this subject. First, if challenges are going to be the only form of progression, then we should be able to at least check our challenges while we're in-game. I feel like that's a no-brainer. Also, there have been leaks about the first battle pass that's going to be at launch, and I noticed there is a free and a paid section for a lot of the unlock levels. I'm sure we'll be able to use in-game currency to unlock this quote-unquote paid content, but when I see other games like Splitgate or Call of Duty lock cosmetic gear from their battle passes behind a paywall, That gets me really concerned because I don't want any of the armors to be locked behind a paywall. Speaking of leaks, there is one other thing I got to address. While I'm very forgiving of more wacky armor in Halo like Hayabusa, flaming helmet effects, the haunted helmet, and even the MCC Season 8 armors, I gotta draw the line at this snowman helmet.
What the is this?
I can forgive the other stuff because at least they still look cool and have kind of been given more of a Halo style look. Stuff like this just makes Halo look like a joke, and I don't want Halo's look and art style to devolve just like Modern Warfare did with its cosmetics. I remember when Modern Warfare first came out, it was taking itself more serious and having more realistically depicted operators and soldiers, but now everyone's running around with anime skins and Saw costumes and other stupid stuff. I don't mind if 343 gets a little crazy and has fun with some of the armors, like the samurai stuff or this Fallout looking helmet for example, but I also still want to recognize that I'm still playing Halo. Just don't go too far with these kind of armors, okay? There's plenty of cool armors in the Halo universe or the previous games you could pull from. Just don't go reindeer nose and antlers. However, the other concern I have is far more serious than the progression system. It's such a serious issue that the community has cried out in shame, and if not fixed, could kill the game on arrival. Where is my female Spartan booty? How could you nerf this 343? Female Spartans with fat butts have been an essential part of Halo since Reach. It promoted legitimate strategies like distracting your opponents. It's not just me either. The whole community is behind female Spartans' massive behinds. And I'm not just saying this because I have a fetish for being sit on by a 1,000-pound female Spartan with a fat dump truck.
I was acting.
Okay, all jokes aside, I really don't care about this, but I do have a bit of a problem with the body type system that's replacing the gender picker. To be clear, I don't have anything against replacing the gender picker with body types on its own. Obviously, with today's times, being more inclusive and letting people express themselves is very appreciated. However, I can barely even tell the difference between each of the options. I'd really like to see 343 go deeper with this. Maybe if you want to be more built like George from Halo Reach, you can pick that option. If you want to be a more feminine version of that, you should have an option for that as well. If you want to be a skinnier Spartan, you can choose that option instead. Or if you want a more feminine version that's more curvy and extra thick, there should be an option for that as well. Ascend Hyperion made a great video where he explains it better than I ever can, so if you want to learn more about this, go check out his video. Obviously, this is not going to be a deal breaker by any means if it's not fixed by launch, but it would be something I would appreciate being fixed, so I'm not confused about which body type will make my Spartan a guy. Before we wrap up this video, I want to list some bugs, glitches, and performance issues I ran into while playing the flight, so that I can bring attention to them for 343. I will say this flight was a bit buggier than the last flight, and I did experience a couple crashes, lag, and rubber banding. Starting with the more game-breaking glitches, the biggest one that should be fixed is BXB, kinda similar to BXR from Halo 2. This is basically canceling out your reload and melee animations, and basically makes your Spartan spam punches much faster like an anime character. You can even drop people while they're in overshield really quickly, so that's a real problem. Another big problem that 343 has addressed is both the hit registration and the lack of a medal announcer during big team battle. I was wondering why I wasn't getting as hyped when I got a kill-tacular in big team battle than when I just got a simple triple kill in social arena, and I think this was the reason why. There was also some armor that I unlocked from the battle pass, but I couldn't equip it for some reason. That's a big problem if the battle pass is supposed to be the only progression in the game. Also, in training modes, I noticed the bots will get stuck on certain areas like spawn pads or corners. They also don't like to get in vehicles for some reason. On the last day of the flight, I had 3 games where my character was locked moving backwards, and it actually cost me the win for many of those games, so that was frustrating. I play on a plugged-in Xbox One controller, but I also use my keyboard to record clips, so maybe there's an issue with having both enabled. I also entered into a match and spawned inside a rock. That was fun. The intros and the outros are better than last time, but can still get kinda buggy. Few times when my party and I were in the main menu, one of us couldn't hear the others. Sometimes after a match ends, the XP screen will stay up while I'm navigating the main menu. Sometimes the menu icons will act weird, and during certain option menus, the screen will flicker. I'm sure you've heard of the duplicating wet floor signs, which are hilarious. And finally, Mario Kart. I'm not kidding. People have actually found tiny versions of vehicles. Honestly, I don't want this last one fixed. It's so freaking funny. This should be a custom games option. I'm sure that seemed like a lot, but for the most part, this still ran and performed pretty good for a flight. Hell, it's better than the Battlefield 2042 beta, and that game's in its beta stage. And that just about wraps up this video. I do apologize if this video kinda came off nitpicky or negative. Most of my positives were already mentioned in the last video, so I didn't feel like dragging this video out by repeating myself. For my final thoughts, the game is in a good place. The game looks fantastic, sounds fantastic, plays fantastic, and the maps are near perfect. The weapons need some tweaking, but are very unique and fun to use for the most part. And if they tweak Big Team Battle, that's going to be my go-to mode. The only things that really concern me are the hit registration issues and the progression system. Besides that, I feel extremely confident about this game, and it's been a long time since I've said that about any game that was coming out in recent years. Since we have enough time to fit one more flight before launch, I'd really like to see 343 do an open beta this time instead of a flight, so that they can stress test the game to everyone instead of just Halo insiders. I'd also love to see some free-for-all modes, get a tryout for that, get to try the whole sandbox, and just see the game after 343 implemented our feedback from this flight like they did with the last flight. Until then, I hope 343 sees this video and takes some of the feedback into consideration, but if not, hopefully they at least got a good laugh or two out of it. I want to thank them for letting us try this flight and letting us give feedback. I want to thank you guys for watching this video all the way through, and I absolutely don't want to thank whoever decided to take away my Spartan booty. When I find out who made that decision, I will hunt you down and...